How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about President Trump announcing the 1776 Commission. Now, what he's going to do here is sign an executive order that would encourage, but hopefully force, it would encourage educators to teach a more realistic perspective of American history rather than the propaganda we got going on right now in critical race theory, the 1619 Project for the New York Times, and more. And I'm talking about K through 12, college, and also the workplace. Now, of course, the left, they're upset, they're triggered, they're mad, they're sad, they're butthurt, they're all that good stuff because they're trying to say that Trump is like Mao Zedong, Kim Jong-un. You're trying to push propaganda of your own. You're trying to whitewash American history. You don't want to tell the full story, all this, that, and the third. I think quite the contrary. They on the left are the ones pushing propaganda. They are the ones that are trying to change history into their own version of it to make it fit what they believe. All right. Let's talk about the 1619 Project. Now, the person behind this is Nicole Hannah-Jones. She's biracial, of course. Nothing against anybody biracial, but what I see when you're talking about some of these more radical racial things that are happening in academia and the lamestream media, it comes from people like that are trying to really prove their blackness to you. Either they are having racial problems because of their biracial identity, or they're just totally white, like Jessica Cruz, Sean King, people like that. But I digress. She has this whole thing called the 1619 Project. I think it was like a series of essays in the New York Times, and then it became some kind of like play or documentary or playumentary, whatever you want to call it. And that's being taught all over the country. I would not be surprised if you got taught that at your workplace, if you work in the corporate environment. Now, luckily for me, thank God, I've never been in a corporate environment to even be dealing with a thing like that, with the critical race theory, the 1619 Project. And also, I avoided that being 36. I was not in the environment where that was in school. You understand? So I never got this race stuff pushed down my throat when I was a kid, nor in my adult life. I've avoided it. But those that are in it, it can be very damaging and also very isolating, and it can cause divide between friends. Okay, you might be best friends with your coworker. Y'all been, buddies for 5-10 years. Here comes critical race theory, 1619 Project. It drives a wedge for no reason. There was never any kind of racial problems, never any racial conversation. And here comes this third party moron getting paid buku dinero because, let's be clear, before I continue, the 1619 Project, critical race theory, these are big time money makers. How do they make money? Well, let's say you have a company and there might be one allegation of racism against them. It could be a PR problem. I think Starbucks had this issue. Remember that whole thing where the guy was in there not wanting to buy anything, just kind of hanging out, chilling. Then it was like, okay, let's shut all the stores down for like 3 days and do race training. What are they going to do? They're going to bring in somebody getting paid a lot of money, possibly 6 figures for like a day of training to teach critical race theory. And they're going to do stuff like unconscious bias. So here's an example of unconscious bias. They'll come in and make it be some kind of scientific thing, even though it's not necessarily. They'll say your brain can only process things at a certain speed, and they do certain calculations that you're not aware of. So basically, based upon your prior experiences, what you see on TV, movies, or whatever, you have unconscious bias. And they're trying to train you out of that unconscious bias. Now, what does that mean? That means you have to see a black person as God himself. Basically, I'm not giving you the exact thing that they say, but that might be what it boils down to. You have to overcompensate to fix your brain, basically, is what they're saying. I mean, if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. Maybe you're not a racist person at all. Maybe what they're saying about your unconscious bias is not even there. It doesn't even exist. You're just a regular person, and you don't need anybody to come in and teach you about unconscious bias. But they're being brought in there. Critical race theory, telling you about white privilege. Shout out to you guys that call my show. You guys are the best in the world. One person called me and said that the person that was doing the race training, they asked for their addresses. It's like, okay, why do you need that? And that person said, well, we need your address to see what Indian land your house is on, what stolen land your house is on. Okay. And then they want you to do things like, apologize for being white, apologize for slavery, admit that if you're white, you have privilege more than others. All that stuff is being taught right now in the workplace. So imagine what's being taught in college. Oh my goodness. They're getting the full 1619 project in class, right? They're getting taught that right now on the board or in the Zoom class or whatever they're doing. Okay. A lot of kids, they'll go from K through 12, kind of indoctrinated a little bit, and go to college, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. They come back a full-blown Antifa member, Molotov cocktail in hand. Rather than the cap and gown, they got a Molotov cocktail and some bear spray. You know what I'm saying? So the critical race theory, the 1619 project, these things are damaging people. If you get taught these things at a young, impressionable age, K through 12 and also college, because you're not quite an adult. Like, you're an adult once you get to be 18, but your mind is still kind of impressionable depending upon what kind of life you've lived. And you're young, you've not learned everything. You can be, indoctrinated at that age. If you are not really in an environment where you're grounded, you're just kind of out there in a new environment, new space, new ideas. It gets pushed to your mind, put into your soft skull. And now, like I said, you are an Antifa member. No cap and gown, Molotov cocktail, bear spray. That's how it works. So Trump announcing the 1776 commission makes sense. You're combating the 1619 project. You're combating critical race theory, all these things that want to have race be the center of it. That's what the 1619 project is, by the way. You want to have the beginning of America be 1619, when the first slaves came to America, rather than when it really started, which is 1776. All right. You want to frame everything through the lens of race. To avoid racism, to get away from that, why would you go more towards it? All right. We all know that this country has a history that's, it's not perfect, but what country on planet Earth has a perfect history? You tell me. I'm trying to figure that out. Tell me the place right now on planet Earth that was just totally innocent and didn't do anything to anybody. You'd be hard pressed to find. The Native Americans, they had a history. Regular Americans, African Americans, white Americans, whatever you are, wherever you come from, you have a history in the past of your nation. And there's some nations right now that got crazy histories as we speak. They're creating a history, and it's crazy. We are far and beyond any country on planet Earth. That's just a fact. This is the best country. Are we perfect? No, we're not perfect, nor is any country perfect, nor does anyone have a perfect history. But to go back and keep bringing up slavery and have that be the center and have that be like the starting point of the country and everything being based on race and trying to teach that in K through 12, college, and the workplace is ridiculous. So no, Trump is not trying to push quote unquote propaganda. He's trying to combat propaganda, and we need that 100%. Because if our children and our very young people are allowed to just have unfettered propaganda pushed on them 24/7, what are we going to have in the future as a nation? I fear for the future if what we're going to have is just unfettered propaganda with no kickback, with no resistance. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? Do you think Trump is right to announce the 1776 commission and to encourage, like I said, hopefully force educators to teach a more realistic point of view of America? If that's your viewpoint, let me know why in the comments below. Or am I wrong for that? Is it incorrect? Should we teach the 1619 project, critical race theory, and all these other things? All right. Is what Trump doing considered propaganda? How about a 1619 project? How about critical race theory? Is that propaganda as well? I feel like I see all that 1619 stuff all over the place, not just in the academia world or in the workplace, but also on television, movies, sports, everywhere. It's getting to be too much, and we got to bring out some real information to combat all the fake stuff. See, the media, that's one thing. You got the fake old school mainstream media, that's one thing. But then when you get into everything being saturated with all this false information, you got to fight against it. And like I said, if you don't, you're going to lose an entire generation, and possibly the entire country will go down with them. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.